Hi everyone, welcome to Mull to 5. I'm JD, and as usual, I'm here playing the jankiest Tier 3 Spicy Rogue Brews for your viewing pleasure. First things first, if you enjoy what we do here, please take a moment to like and subscribe. It's a quick and easy way to show your support. It really helps out the channel. We really appreciate it. Also, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Main Phase Media. These videos would not be possible without them, so please check them out for all your graphic design and video production needs. And finally, if you have your own janky masterpiece deck you'd like to see me play, please leave a comment, or you can shoot an email to the address in the description below. And now we'll get straight to the deck tech, and today we're playing some classic jank in the form of Maze's End. And so for those of you not familiar, Maze's End is a land that comes into play tapped, which is also a win condition. It says it has an ability to tutor up other gates, return Maze's End to its land, search your library for a gate card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. If you control 10 or more gates with different names, you win the game. Boom. This is what we're trying to do. This is our win condition. Unfortunately, it's a super slow win condition that requires that we're winning with 10 different super slow lands. Guild gates come into play tapped, which is a huge disadvantage. It slows the deck down so much. So the first card we're going to look at is Amulet of Vigor, of like Amulet Titan fame, the deck that actually puts it to good use. We're going to use it in our deck. I don't know if we'll be quite as successful as Amulet Titan, but we're going to try. So anyway, it's an artifact that says whenever a permanent enters the battlefield tapped and under your control, untap it. So all of a sudden, our guild gates are coming into play untapped. So this is definitely a necessary card if we want our deck to function at a normal rate of speed. So there's Amulet of Vigor. Even with Amulet, it's still a slow deck. We literally need 10 different lands on the battlefield to win with Maze's End. So we need to prolong the game. And to do that, we're using a lot of fog effects. Now, instead of just the actual card fog, and whatever the white one is, like Holy Day or something, I think it's called, those are only 1 mana, but they're also just prevent combat damage. That's all they do. And so it's kind of narrow. And the difference between 1 mana and 2 mana in our deck isn't a huge deal. Ideally, we're putting a lot of lands into play. We have the extra mana floating around. So we'd rather be paying 2 mana for a fog effect with some additional utility. So for example, we're playing with Dawn Charm. It has 3 different modes. The first is prevent all combat damage, so it's like a fog. Then also you have the option of regenerating a creature, which is the least relevant for us. We're only running 2 different creatures in the whole deck. Or we can counter a spell that targets us. So if we're playing against a deck that maybe doesn't play a ton of creatures, like Burn, they're trying to throw a lightning bolt at our face, Dawn Charm has the option of countering that lightning bolt instead of just the single option of preventing combat damage. So that's why we're running Dawn Charm. The next one is Pollen Lullaby. This is just a fog effect. However, it has an added bonus stapled to it, which I think, again, is worth the extra colorless mana. Prevent all combat damage, then Clash. And clashing is both players reveal the top card. They can both scry, essentially, which is an additional bonus in and of itself. But then if we win the clash, meaning we have a card with the higher converted mana cost, their creatures don't untap during their next untap step. So it's kind of like a lingering fog effect for the next turn. Creatures won't be untapping to attack us again. So Pollen Lullaby, yes, it is just a fog effect, but it's a fog effect with an additional bonus on top of that. And finally, Haze of Pollen. Haze of Pollen, again, is just a fog effect, but it has cycling. So if we don't need it, again, if we're playing a deck without creatures, we can just cycle it away, replace it with something else. So that's why I'm running these instead of the 1 mana fogs, just because they either have other options or they can be replaced if they're not useful, etc. So there are our fog effects. Next is trying to get gates and lands onto the battlefield ASAP. Yes, fogs will let us prolong the game, give us more time, but we still don't want to be taking 10 turns playing one land a turn to get there. So it brings us to kind of the next half of the deck, which is the cards that are kind of helping us ramp and put extra lands into play. So one of our 2 creatures is Gatecreeper Vine. It's an 0/2, it's Defender, it's literally just there for its second ability and to act as a chump blocker. Once it comes into play, we can throw it away as a chump blocker to prevent some damage. But when it does enter the battlefield, you can search your library for a basic land or a gate, reveal it, put it into your hand. So this is basically just making sure we always have a land in our hand to play. Which brings us to Growth Spiral. It's a green and a blue. Draw a card. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So it's drawing us cards, replaces itself, and it allows us to play 2 lands per turn. It allows us to play a second land from our hand onto the battlefield. So it's doing everything we need. The reason I chose Growth Spiral, there is a card called Explore, which is green and colorless, which would be easier to cast. As opposed to green and blue. It's a little more restrictive. But Growth Spiral is an instant, whereas Explore is a sorcery. And that doesn't really play nice with this card called Icecrown Scepter. It's an artifact for 2 mana with the imprint ability. So when it enters the battlefield, we exile an instant card with converted mana cost 2 or less from our hand. And then from then on, we can pay 2 and tap the Scepter to essentially cast a copy of whatever card we chose to imprint. So Explore would not work well with Icecrown Scepter, but Growth Spiral does. So basically this is just another form of card advantage. It gives us a repeatable Growth Spiral every turn, or a repeatable Pollen Lullaby every turn. Whatever card we imprint, we get to cast every turn, which is amazing. And if we have 2 out, we can have 1 on fog duty, 1 on spiral duty. So Icecrown Scepter is great in our deck. And so let's see, moving right along. Oh, we skipped over 1. Let's go back. We've got Life from the Loam here. One thing our deck really would just fold to is like Ghost Quarter and Tectonic Edge and any type of land destruction. Because if they blow up enough, if we don't have 10 different gates left in our deck, then we literally have no way of winning. The only way in the main board that we're winning is the Maze's End combo. We need this to win. Otherwise, the only chance we have is beating him with Courser of Kruphix, and that's not a very good plan. So if someone's blowing up our lands, we have Life from the Loam as like a safety. We can return land cards from our graveyard to our hand. So if someone blows up our one of Azorius Guildgate and we need it back, we do have Life from the Loam, so we don't just auto-scoop to land destruction effects. Let's see. In the 3 converted mana cost slot, we have Guild Summit. It's an enchantment, it's just amazing card draw in our deck. When it enters, you can tap any number of untapped gates to draw a card for each gate tapped this way. So if you're playing this late game and you pay 3 mana to cast this, and you still have like 3 or 4 untapped gates, you can draw 3 or 4 cards when this enters the battlefield. That's pretty amazing. Even if you don't draw using that effect, whenever a gate enters the battlefield from then on, you're drawing a card. So you could play this on turn 3. Yeah, you're not getting any value by tapping untapped gates with its first ability, but from then on out, whenever a gate enters the battlefield, you're drawing a card. So this card is amazing, perfect for our deck. Courser of Kruphix is the second creature. It's a 2/4. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You can play the top card of your library if it's a land card, and when a land enters the battlefield under our control, you gain 1 life. So this guy's literally doing everything we need him to do. He's a 2/4, so he's a great blocker. He stonewalls lots of aggressive creatures, Goblin Guide, etc. Just stops them. Can chump block them all day long. He's card advantage. He's, lets us play lands from the top of our library, so it's essentially like drawing us a card. And whenever a land enters the battlefield, we're gaining life. So again, he's padding our life total, helping the game go long until we can assemble our Maze's End combo. So Courser is perfect. And finally, we have a 1-of Wrath of God, because sometimes we stumble, we run out of fog effects, and we're just getting overwhelmed with creatures. This is like a reset button. Cast this, hopefully reset everything, clean up the mess, and we can kind of continue on from there. So if the other side of the battlefield's getting out of hand, we have a 1-of Wrath of God to clean it up. But again, not all decks are running creatures, so I only wanted one of them. I don't think we want a ton of these in the main board because they're just dead against control and stuff like that. Anyway, so we'll talk about the lands now. Again, tons of guild gates, obviously. We need 10 different ones to win. The cool thing is recently we got a card called Gateway Plaza, which is a gate. So this is an 11th gate that Maze's End now has access to. So in the past, there was just the 10 guilds that each had a gate. And so, for example, if they blew up our one Azorius guild gate, we needed to find that life from the loam, because now we only have 9 gates left. But now with Gateway Plaza, if they blow up that one Azorius guild gate, because of this, we still have 10 left. They have to blow up 2 different gates to bring us down below the requisite number for Maze's End. So Gateway Plaza is our 11th gate, makes this a little more playable. So we don't just instantly scoop when we lose our 1-of guild gate, because now we have 11. So most of them are 1-ofs, except for the ones that tap for green. So we've got 2 Golgaris and actually the ones that tap for green and white and green and blue, because those are the colors we need. We're kind of in Bant colors here. I've got 3 each of those. So 3 Simics, 3 Selesnias, and then, like I said, 1 each of the rest. 3 Maze's End. We want to see it every game, but it's not really great in multiples, so I put 3 in there so we can find it eventually, hopefully, but we aren't necessarily getting 2 per game. And then finally, we just have 3 basic forests, which we will need for our Nature's Claim. So that will segue into the sideboard here. We instant lose to Blood Moon. Blood Moon turns all our non-basics into mountains. We can't win with the Maze's End combo. Our only hope is Courser Crucifix. So Blood Moon ruins our day. So Nature's Claim comes in against any deck we think might be running Blood Moon. So to cast Nature's Claim through a Blood Moon, we need basic forests. So that's why those are included, just to be able to cast our Nature's Claims, because Blood Moon doesn't affect basics. So yeah, Nature's Claim's the big one. If we think Blood Moon's coming, we bring this in. We also bring in Crackling Perimeter as a backup plan. If we can't find a forest, if we can't find our Nature's Claim to get rid of the Blood Moon, we do have Crackling Perimeter, which we can play. Because our gates retain their subtype gate. They're mountains, but they're also gates, so we can still tap them as an alternate win condition to just ping our opponent for damage. Crackling Perimeter also comes in against control. They don't necessarily have a ton of creatures, so our fog effects are kind of useless, so that we can replace them with Crackling Perimeter. That way we have 2 avenues to victory. We can either assemble the Maze's End combo, or we can just ping them for damage with Crackling Perimeter. So this comes in against Blood Moon, against control. Riot Control is kind of another fog effect. However, this one says prevent all damage, not just combat damage. So this is good against control. This is good against burn. This is good against storm, that sort of thing, where they're damaging us, but not through combat necessarily. This will prevent a crazy grape shot. It just prevents all damage that would be dealt to you this turn, prevents lightning bolts, etc. It is also good against creature-based combat damage, too, because this has the added bonus of gaining life for each creature our opponent controls. So this is just a pretty good card we can bring in. It's 3 converted mana cost, and it doesn't have the utility that, say, like Dawn Charm does, for example. So this is in the sideboard. And then similarly, we have Cerulean Gatekeepers. Comes in against the aggressive decks. It's another stone wall. It's a 2/4, just like Courser. And it gains us life when it enters. 7 life, which is a pretty big chunk. So again, just kind of padding our life total against the aggressive decks. So I think that just about covers it. Should be interesting. I'm a little worried about going to time because I'm a slow player anyway. And this seems like a long, slow, grindy game. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we will just lose by turn 3 and it'll be over super fast. That could happen too. We'll see. I'm going to have to try to play fast though, because it has the potential to be a long game. So we'll see. But we're going to take this to a friendly Modern League, see how we do, see if we can get there with Maze's End. If we win with the Maze's End combo just once, I'll be happy. So we'll see. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the first match.